My name is Gavin Olson, and I want to tell you about Amelia Earhart. On June 1st, 1947, in Oakland, California, Amelia Earhart attempted to be the first woman pilot to fly around the world. At this time, most women didn't have jobs outside of their home. She was the 16th woman to be a pilot. Most people who know her because her plane disappeared when she attempted to fly around the world. But she did so much more. I am going to tell you about the many things she did to show that women can do anything that men can do. As a child, Amelia Earhart was brave and adventurous. She visited the World's Fair in 1904 and saw many amazing inventions, and got inspired to make a roller coaster in her yard after seeing one at the fair. When she got home, people in her family helped her make it using a crate and wooden boards that were greased. When she went racing down and the crate tumbled to the ground, she jumped up. Her dress was torn, her hip was bruised, but she was smiling and said it was just like flying. At age 19, Amelia went to Oregon School in Pennsylvania, which was a good private school for girls. She went to Toronto at Christmas and saw injured soldiers from World War I. She decided not to go back to school, but to train as a nurse's aide and work in a hospital. During this time, she met an officer in the Canadian Royal Flying Corps, who invited her to watch him fly. Amelia wrote in her book, 20 Hours in 40 Minutes, I remember well that when the snow blown back by the propellers stung my face, I felt a first urge to fly. But at that time, only soldiers could fly, not civilians. When the war ended in 1918, her hard work hurt her health, and she had a severe sinus infection and needed surgery. While she was recovering, she took banjo lessons and a course in automobile engine repair. In 1919, Amelia enrolled in Columbia University, New York, one of the top colleges in the country. Because she enjoyed her work in the hospital, she thought about a career in medicine. But after taking many science courses, she decided not to devote her life to medicine. After a year, she left college and moved to California. In 1920, she went to an air show at Rogers Field and watched pilots racing and doing incredible tricks, like wing walking. She was fascinated by it and wanted to try flying herself. 3 days later, her dad took her to Rogers Field, where she took her first plane ride. After her first flight, she knew she wanted to be a pilot. So she earned money to pay for flying lessons. She had flying lessons at Kinner Airfield with Netta Snook, a woman pilot. She also learned to fix planes. With her mother's help, Amelia bought a small plane at Kinner Airfield. December 15, 1921, Amelia took the test for her pilot's license. After she got her license, she flew in some air shows. Most pilots were men, so a young woman attracted a lot of attention. As a pilot, Amelia was trying to push the boundaries of what could be done with her plane. For example, she set the record for how far a plane could fly, and she flew up to 14,000 feet in 2 attempts. Then her plane engine began to fail, and it was barely able to make a safe landing. But she made her record. She got invited to be the first woman to fly across the Atlantic. But even though she was called the captain, she was really just a passenger. At this time, 14 people had died trying to cross the Atlantic because planes weren't as reliable as they are today. She wrote in her book, so a few minutes after the takeoff, we nearly lost 2 of our crew. Emma came within inches of falling out when the door suddenly slid open, and when I dived for the gasoline can edging toward the opening door, I had an narrow escape. Although it took several attempts to take off, they made it across the Atlantic in 20 hours and 40 minutes. She wrote a book about her experience called 20 Hours and 40 Minutes, Our Flight in the Friendship. After she landed, the newspapers reported people were eager to see Amelia Earhart. On June 19, 1928, the New York Times said Miss Earhart was nearly crushed by the anxiety of the crowd of men, women, and children to touch the hem of her flying suit to get her autograph and congratulate her. After this trip, she became famous, and in 6 months, she made over 100 speeches and gave 200 interviews. Later, she flew a plane across the Atlantic on her own. During the Great Depression, Amelia helped start an airline on the East Coast called the New York, Philadelphia, and Washington Airway because it flew between those cities. Her job was to convince people to ride on the airline. It was difficult to run an airline because only a few cities had airports. Air sickness was a problem because of fumes in the cabin and the air was no air conditioning. More than half the tickets were sold to women. She continued her dreams of flying and setting records. She started to fly something called an autogyro. She became the first person to go across the country and back in an autogyro. Soon after, she flew across the Atlantic alone in a regular plane. Before she went on her flight around the world, she said, "I have a feeling that there is just about one more good flight left in my system, and I hope this trip is it. Anyways, when I have finished this job, I mean to give up long-distance sun flying." Before she flew around the world, she bought a Lockheed Electra plane. She had the seats removed for space for extra fuel tanks. This allowed the plane to fly up to 3,000 miles before stopping to refuel. She hired 2 navigators to help her. They started in Oakland, California, and flew to Hawaii. And she was going to fly to Island Island, but the plane started skidding out of control and got damaged. Because of a delay or repairs, one of the navigators left. Then they went back to Oakland, California. They flew the other way around. They went 22,000 miles and stopped in 19 countries of 5 continents. On her flight to Howland Island, she disappeared. Her last words were, "We must be on you, but cannot see you, and gas is running low. Been unable to reach you by radio." So basically, She was a person who believed that women should have the same rights as men and broke the boundaries of what women can do.